This is Jon Gabriel, author and creator of The Gabriel Method, a diet-free way for permanent, sustainable weight loss. And I'm very excited today to be joined by special guest Paula Robbins. I know Paula personally and professionally through her work. She's an exceptionally gifted transpersonal hypnotherapist who I've worked with myself and who I've referred many people to. Paula lives in Denver, Colorado, which is an extremely busy private practice. So I'm very honored that she's taken the time to join us today for the show. Paula, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks for coming. You know, as I just mentioned briefly, I've referred several people to you, and they've gotten tremendous benefit. And I know from my own experience, and those of us that have been following the Gabriel Method know that when you've got emotional trauma, sometimes your body can use weight as a way of protecting you because that emotional trauma kind of makes you feel unsafe, and then that weight somehow makes you feel safer. In the Gabriel Method world, we call that emotional obesity, and you've been extremely effective in helping people deal with those type of trauma. So I'm wondering if you could just talk a little bit about what it is that you do.
Well, there's a couple of different things that I do, but the primary modality that we work with as far as trauma is cellular release therapy. And that is a modality of work that is done in a meditative trance state where we are asking permission of the subconscious mind to release certain experiences, beliefs, fears, feelings that are holding somebody back. So it's a very specific and specialty type modality of work that has a very strong effectiveness rate when we're doing our best to release at an emotional level. So
let's just start from the beginning. Like, what is it about trauma that causes our body to hold on to it, to hold on to weight? How does all that work?
Well, trauma is a factor of cellular memory. So let's talk about cellular memory for a second, and that'll probably more clearly define it. If you think about muscle memory, so for example, a professional athlete has a very specific signature style. Like if you think about baseball, the way they swing the bat, the way that they run, their muscles remember, and their cells in their muscles remember a very specific style. So if we think about emotions and events and things that occur in our life, we also have cellular memory. So our cells remember everything that has occurred to us. And our cells also emit specific chemicals every time we have an emotion. They're called neuropeptides. So there's a couple of different factors to trauma and cellular memory. First of all, the cells emit the chemicals, which can be endorphins, adrenaline, serotonin, cortisol, several different neuropeptides. The body has about 200. And they can release them in various cocktails of amounts of neuropeptides. And so that's one factor. When the cells emote, when the body or the human emotes, there is neuropeptides. And not only is that the case, but the cells also lock in the memory. So a lot of the times what happens is as we go forward in our lifetime, if we have traumatic events, if we have troublesome events, when we go forward in our life, if anything triggers this old memory that is within the cellular memory, then our body can again release those chemicals. So sometimes weight gain is a factor of the chemical factors, and other times it's also a factor of the emotions, the body perhaps protecting itself, the body perhaps hiding, inside the weight.
So what you're saying then is basically, let's say you had a trauma and the trauma has caused your body to feel like, well, maybe a little bit of extra weight, it might make me a little bit safer. And then each time we have an experience in our life that triggers that memory, it sort of kind of reinforces to our body, hey, yeah, we need to have a little bit of extra weight. Is that kind of what's happening, you think?
I think that is the most common theme in weight.
Yeah.
Is the safety factor, absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you do? How do you address this? Because I've worked with thousands and thousands of people that have had this issue, and I can tell you that, and I also get contacted all the time from therapists, with all psychologists, hypnotherapists, and people from all different types of healing modalities, and I feel like yours has been extremely successful for us. And so I'm wondering what's the process that you use to help release the trauma and help people rework their cells so that they don't have those patterns anymore?
Well, I am a transpersonal hypnotherapist. So the work that I do, there's several different factors in working with each individual. And with each individual, of course, the process and pathway is customized. But predominantly, the cellular release therapy work is a modality done, again, in that meditative hypnotherapy trance state. And what we're doing is working with idiomotor signals. So they'll have a yes and a no signal. The index finger lifts for yes, the pinky finger lifts for no. And what we're doing is we're asking permission at the subconscious level if they can let go or release a specific event, belief, fear, experience. And a lot of the times, you know, the simplistic way to explain this is to say, a lot of the times we know something's happened to us or we're going through something and we tell ourselves, you know, we got to let it go. You know, Jon, you got to let that go. And you even say to yourself, I wish I could just let this go. Well, the bottom line is if it's locked into the cell memory, if it's locked into the subconscious level, it's not quite that simple. But in a meditative state, if with the support of a facilitator, such as myself or, you know, a different therapist, the opportunity to ask permission of the subconscious, can you let this go? Once the subconscious lifts that yes finger and says yes, then we make a command or a directive to the subconscious to release it. And what happens for most people is the charge and the connection to the event does release and it does clear. And that's where the healing really begins. And they just begin to feel lighter, not just emotionally, but also spiritually, physically, mentally, in many, many ways.
Yeah. You know, you talk about talking to the subconscious and unconscious patterns. And I know that, you know, when I talk to people, sometimes I can kind of sense that there is that emotional trauma that's causing the weight gain. And they say to me, well, I did the therapy thing. You know, I had a therapist for 20 years. I did the therapy thing. And I'm just wondering what's different about what you're doing versus when you're just talking to a therapist.
Predominantly the fact that we're working both with some spiritual factors as well as the subconscious mind. We're asking at a much deeper level of the mind. When you're working with a therapist through talk therapy, you're working only with your conscious mind and what you're consciously aware of. There are some situations where we're not really consciously aware of. I mean, when we think about weight in general and the struggle around the world with weight, people want to lose weight. And if consciously we could just make the decision, I'm going to, you know, drop 100 pounds or 50 kilos, we'd all lose weight. But subconsciously there's usually something that's got us hooked. Right. So because we're working with a deeper layer is where the success of something like this comes from.
So what you're saying is if you're just talking consciously, you're only working on a level that's basically we all want to lose weight anyway. So the problem's solved on a conscious level. It's getting to the unconscious patterns. And I guess what you're saying, and this has been my experience too, is you can't really change unconscious or subconscious patterns through working through your conscious mind and working just through regular conscious conversation. Does that sound right?
You can. But it takes an awful long time. When you work with the subconscious, the rate of success and the ability to get to the deeper layers is just a lot faster. That's really the primary difference. So
if somebody works through your pattern of cellular release therapy and transpersonal hypnotherapy, how many sessions does it usually take till people notice a shift? That's
a really strong variable. It depends on the client. It depends on what they've got going on, what level of trauma they're bringing to the table. So it's very customized. It's very individual. But most people, I will say, notice a shift in some way, whether it's the significant shift they're seeking or just the pathway that, wow, things are really changing. It can be the first few sessions. It can be, you know, the first session, and it can be sometimes a few months down the road.
Okay. And so how do you become a transpersonal hypnotherapist? Like, how did you learn this?
I went through hypnotherapy certification back in 2007, and then I stepped into a lot of the transpersonal classes that were offered. And transpersonal, the primary difference between traditional hypnotherapy, which is more on the level of just, you know, suggestion and metaphors and things of that nature, which can be incredibly effective, as of course you well know. Transpersonal hypnotherapy is a combination of psychotherapy, so there is a talk factor, a conversation factor in coaching. There is the hypnotherapy, but there's also the incorporation of spiritual experience. So we do incorporate divine light. We do incorporate the higher self, that sort of thing. So it does step into kind of a deeper layer of combining several facets of the body, mind, and spirit. So it's a much more holistic approach.
And I know, like I know I've referred hundreds of people to you, and I don't always hear back from them. I occasionally get an email saying, "Hey, I'm feeling incredible. Thank you very much." But you're working with these people. I'm wondering if you could tell me specifically how they've benefited from your work.
Gosh, it's been such a great honor. First of all, I work with a lot of your people, and I will say that many of them have had just differing levels of success. The majority of them, one of the pieces that I really emphasize when they first come in is to let them know that this is really specifically based on your emotional healing. The goal is not necessarily how much weight are you going to lose working with me, but let's start doing some of the healing piece and see what transforms. So a lot of people, they start losing, the anxiety levels go down, depression levels go down. They start noticing more natural ability to make better food choices, to sleep better, to be more clear about what is the body needing and wanting, because they just become much more clear because we're releasing so much baggage, if you will, things that people carry that they've been holding throughout their whole life that are, frankly, heavy. So the biggest comment that most people share is that they feel lighter, and in so many ways. So, but there's just been a lot of really incredible stories. I've spoken to a few people and let them know that you and I were going to be talking today, and several of them are kind of anxious to put in a few testimonials and let you know what their experience has been. So I think you'll be hearing from a few of the people that I've worked with. Yeah.
Now, the good thing about the work that you do is you can do it over Skype. And I just want to say to people listening, I had 2 Skype sessions with Paula, and I've done a lot of work in my life. I did a lot of work on my own and with anybody that I feel like can benefit me. And the work that those 2 sessions that I did with Paula were really groundbreaking for me because they helped me release a trauma from very, very early on that had been plaguing me all my life, and it was just almost instantaneous. And we did this via Skype. She was in Colorado, and I was in Australia. So I'm wondering if you can tell me a little bit about how that works, the Skype sessions that you do.
It's video to video, so that is the most important piece, is that we are able to connect. But one of the valuable pieces about working over Skype for the client is that they have an opportunity to be in their own home. So in many cases, it's more effective than even being, here locally in Denver and being in my office, because you're in the comfort of your own home. You can feel the safety in your own space versus having to go somewhere and be in my space. So for a lot of people, they really like that. And I have to say I've done hundreds of sessions over Skype now, and they've all been very effective. And, barring any technical issues, which I will say are very rare, so it's been really effective.
So you've put together a group of therapists that can help people that do the same work that you do. Is that right?
I have. Yes, pretty excited about it.
And are they as qualified, as trained, and as competent and as amazing as you are? Or?
I would absolutely say yes. These are all very dear friends of mine. They're all people that I trust and respect implicitly. And we're not all a clone of what I do. We all have our own very unique gifts and our unique styles and ability to connect with people in our own unique way. But these are all very qualified individuals, and every one of us is very skilled and trained in cellular release therapy, which is what we're all really wanting to bring to the table for the sake of our common goal.
So then let me just ask them, if somebody is interested, they're listening, and they think, hey, this could really benefit me, I've had issues all my life or whatever it is, how do they get started? Can they have an initial consultation with you, or how do we do it?
So what they'll need to do is they will write in and they'll request that they are interested in the initial consultation education session to learn more about how will the emotional release specialists work with them, and is this the right pathway for them. It's a $50 expense for this education session, consultation call, and it is a conversation that takes place over Skype. They will really have an opportunity to be educated and learn more. Does this feel right? Is this the right way that it's going to work? Is this the right emotional release specialist for me to work with. So they have that opportunity to decide. So there's no obligation. It's just a matter of learning more and becoming more educated is this right?
Okay. Well, what I can tell you from my experience now of years and years of working with people is that approximately 80% of people that have had a lifetime of weight issues, you can trace that to some sort of emotional trauma. That's been my experience. Or if those of you that are listening, if there's any point where you can trace your weight issue to a specific date, when something happened, you started getting, then you've got, there was some sort of emotional trauma. It could have been that you were moving to another country. It could have been a divorce, a separation, your parents getting divorced, some sort of mental or emotional or physical abuse, a car accident, a physical injury, any type of specific trauma that had triggered a weight gain, then that's an issue that absolutely positively has to get addressed. It's an extremely effective way of getting it addressed. So if you have anything like that, I would urge you to click the big orange button below, have an initial consultation with Paula or one of the people in her group, and see where it goes from there. And I can tell you it's been extremely beneficial, not only for me, but for many other people. So, Paula, I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I look forward to speaking with you soon.
Wonderful. Thanks so much.
Take care.
You too.